Vayekonen Yirmiyahu al Yoshiyahu, number 11, in your Kinnah's books, recounts a historical event, namely, not too long before the destruction of the first temple, the two major empires of the world at that time were Egypt and Assyria. And it was Egypt's turn. It wanted to inflict lethal blows on its enemy, Assyria. But in order to do that, it had to pass through the land of Judah, the land of Israel. And the Pharaoh, Paro Neche, the Pharaoh of Egypt, he sent a letter to the King Yoshiyahu. And he said, "Dear Yoshiyahu, we have no problem with the Jewish people in Israel. Our goal now is to fight a war against Assyria. Just let us go through. We won't make any problems." Yoshiyahu was a God-fearing king, and he spoke to Yirmiyahu the prophet. What should I do? Yirmiyahu the prophet told him that you have to let the non-Jews fight against the non-Jews. Don't stop. Don't try to fight a war against Egypt. Don't do it. And Yoshiyahu said, but look, the Jewish people have returned to the way of serving the Almighty, which was a major thing accomplished by Yoshiyahu after his father Ammon and his grandfather Menashe had ridded the country of virtually every Sefer Torah, burnt up, destroyed. And Yoshiyahu sent out agents to the whole country, through the whole country, to search and see if there was any idolatry. And the agents all came back, no, we didn't find anything. And Yoshiyahu said to Yirmiyahu, look, the Almighty promises us in Parshas Bechukosai, in Bechukosai Telechu, if you follow my statutes, so then, V'cherav lo ya'avor v'artzachem, no sword will pass through your land. Well, we're keeping the Torah, we're doing our part of the bargain. Now, the Almighty has to protect us and make sure that not even a sword shall come through the land, even if its purpose is just to fight against other non-Jews, the Assyrians. And Yirmiyahu said, no, don't do it. Yirmiyahu was in touch with the reality. The reality was that there were scoffers that still had their idols. How did they hide their idols from the messengers of Yoshiyahu? They took their idol, they put it on the inside of their door. The door opened up from the middle, and the idol was, in effect, cut in half. And the messengers from Yoshiyahu came, they looked, they didn't see anything. Oh, no avodah zarah over here. We'll give our ishur, we'll give our handpeck, we'll give our kosher. And then they left, and the scoffers laughed at the messengers. They closed the door, and they went back to their idolatry. Yirmiyahu knew this, and Yirmiyahu told the king, don't do it, don't fight against the Egyptians. And Yoshiyahu did not listen to the prophet, and he went to war against the Egyptians. And at one point, he was ambushed, and the Egyptian archers, 300 arrows into his body, and he was dying. And he started mumbling words. He could barely speak. Yirmiyahu was afraid maybe the king is blaspheming. After all, he was so certain that the Almighty would help. Maybe he's blaspheming. Maybe he's turning against the Almighty in his last moment. Yirmiyahu came close to hear what Yoshiyahu, the great king, was saying. What did he say? Ki tzaddik Hashem, ki fihu marisi. The Almighty is righteous. I rebelled against him. I did what the prophet told me not to do. Yirmiyahu lamented the killing, the dying of Yoshiyahu. And the fourth parak of Eicha has its theme the death of the great Yoshiyahu. For the prakim of Eicha, perhaps you've noticed, they're all organized through the aleph base. The Medrash says, because Perek Dalet, as well as the other prakim, but Perek Dalet in particular, Le'ilui Nishmas Yoshiyahu, for the elevation of Yoshiyahu, this lament, written by the style of the aleph base, 22 letters in the aleph base, the Almighty delayed the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash 22 years because of the great Yoshiyahu, what he tried to do. And even though ultimately he failed, but he was nevertheless great, and he tried to stem the tide. And the question might be asked, well, he did so well, but nevertheless, it wasn't perfect. What was lacking? We read the Haftarahs these last 3 weeks, the Shlosha, the Puanusa. We read how the Jewish people were basically keeping everything. They were learning Torah. They were doing everything. But it was all external. Mitzvos Hanoshim Melumada, all a matter of rote, without thought. And therefore, even though they were Torah abiding, but nevertheless they didn't go out of their way to help the weak element of the society. It wasn't perfect. And that's why the Churban occurred. And that's why Yoshiyahu was not successful in stemming the tide. In Divrei Hayomim, the book of Chronicles, part of Tanakh, Perek, Divrei Hayomim base, Perek Kafhei, it says over there that a takana, a ruling was made that whenever the Jewish people gathered together to lament their fate, they should say a dirge, they should say a poem about the sad killing of Yoshiyahu and the dashing of their hopes. I remember years ago when some of the Rabbanim were speaking to the Rosh Yeshiva about which keynotes yes to say and which not to say. Obviously, we don't have time for all of them, especially if we're going to discuss them and introduce them as we should. So, which ones yes? And I in my ignorance, I said, there's one over here, Vayekonen Yirmiyahu al Yoshiyahu. It's not directly dealing with the Churban, and it's not directly dealing with the Holocaust or the Inquisition. So maybe that's one that should not be said. We could leave that out. So our Rosh Yeshiva said, no, that Kinnah is to be said midrabanan. That's not just a matter of custom. That was established as a chok to say a Kinnah in honor of Yoshiyahu. So important was that reality that Yoshiyahu almost succeeded in turning the tables around, which means to us that it can be done. We bemoan the fact that the Jewish people are in terrible shape, yes, but we know that it can be turned around. That is our responsibility. Love, wisdom, and responsibility. That's it. That's what we have to live by. That's what we have to do. And that's why we're saying this Kinnah. Let's take a look.